Welcome to Anything But Ordinary, the podcast that explores the extraordinary world behind the world, the unordinary people and businesses that create the extraordinary bubble around high-profile lives. I am Zoe Jackson, and in each episode I sit down with inspiring individuals, from founders and creators to pioneers and disruptors, who are redefining success and carving out their own paths in business and in life. We dive into the personal challenges, triumphs and turning points that make their journeys anything but ordinary. This show is your reminder that success isn't one size fits all, and life really is anything but ordinary. Lilia, hi.
Hi, Zoe.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. A tad nervous, but I'm easing in now.
Yeah, no nervous, no. We're just going to be nice and relaxed, a nice relaxed conversation. Lilia, like I said, thank you so much for joining me. It's a real pleasure to have you here. And I know we chatted beforehand as well, so we've got to know each other a little bit.
That did help.
Yes, it definitely does help. Obviously, you've got a anything but ordinary life, really.
You could say so.
Yeah, absolutely. From career to personal. But let's take it back to where it all started. So you grew up in Bulgaria.
I did. I was born in Sofia in 1987, and Bulgaria was still under communism regime. Mm-hmm. So my childhood started off in a very, very different environment to what you know here in the Western world. Communism did fall in 1989, so things started changing. But, you know, I grew up with something that's very, very different to what everybody knows here. You know, there were times when you wouldn't have bananas, for example, and that's a big thing. Every Bulgarian will tell you this, that
really?
It was Christmas when you can actually buy bananas from the shop and you queue for bread. And it's really, really a very, very different upbringing and experience. Even though communism did fall in 1989, then it's taken Bulgaria a long time to, you know, come to where it is today. Today we're in the European Union. Things are changing massively. But one thing that I actually really think was amazing for me is that I grew up with a lot of family values, and we were very tight-knit. I'm an only child. So this is something that nowadays doesn't happen all the time, you know. Kids are always on computers, they're, you know, doing all kinds of things, whereas with me, I've also learned to appreciate absolutely everything. The smallest little thing would bring me joy, and I'll be happy about, like a hair clip or, you know, anything. So nowadays, when we are bombarded with everything and everything is available, retaining this ability to find joy in the smallest little thing, I think is giving me a lot of strength and power. Yeah, absolutely. I think being able to recognise the simplicity of life sometimes, and as you say, the family values, and like you said, it's a very different experience than a lot of people would have grown up in the UK at that time. So that obviously has probably massively deeply embodied who you are as a person. I very much believe in that, because I believe that our childhood shapes our whole life ahead. Yeah. The good and the bad, obviously, you know, we get a lot of traumas and everything that later on in life we have to deal with and understand. But it also really shapes who we are in a very positive light. Yeah, absolutely. And then at 19, was it 19 you moved to the UK? It was 19. So yes, I just graduated from high school. Yeah. And I moved to the UK to study. I was a very rebellious teenager. I've given my mom hell. I was going to say, were your parents on board? They want you to move to the UK? They're happy for you to go? My parents separated when I was 12. So it was my mom that took over and really kind of raised me in my conscious years as such. And the most difficult, challenging times as a teenager. She was absolutely devastated when I decided to go. Because, you know, being an only child, and I was her best friend and she was my best friend. And we've been through thick and thin together. But she adopted the idea. I mean, even to this day, and I've been in this country for 18 years. Yeah. She cries every time she drops me off at the airport. And I do as well. It's ridiculous. But, it's something that will never change. We see each other a lot. We're on the phone all the time. I go there. She comes over to see us. But this kind of like separation when you're just about to go on that plane.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that when I was first going. It was a very interesting experience, very overpowering, because it's like in the movies, you look back at the elevator and you're going up towards the gate and here we go, the crying might start. And then you see your mum and your family and they're just like this, like, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
But yes, it's such a shift in your life, really, because if you decided to stay in Bulgaria at that time, as much as your mother would have loved it, life might have been very, very
100%.
different.
I don't believe that Bulgaria would have given me a lot of opportunity to grow and become the person who I am. And this was one of the main reasons. And I was always very adventurous. Now, I'm not going to lie that at 19, I really sat down and thought, this is going to be my career path and it's going to be beneficial for me to move to the UK because of this and that and the other. I was adventurous and I wanted
excitement.
Yeah, and I wanted to get away from home and my mom and just explore something else. And, and then I literally didn't make any plans. It took me, I came here as an au pair.
Yes.
Because Bulgaria was still not in the European Union when I first decided that I wanted to go. So I applied with an agency and the whole, thing was done very properly, which didn't end up being very proper, but that's another subject.
Okay.
For another time. But that
time.
also shaped me, that experience. And that's how it all started. I got here, I started working, then I got accepted in university the year after. I enrolled, I did a dual degree, so public relations and events management. You did touch upon what made me decide to actually do that. Funnily enough, I always wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, really? Okay.
I
so
really
you did. Want to be a lawyer, yeah.
But I was too lazy.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think that I could deal with the studies.
Yeah. That's so funny because actually I'm the same. I went to college. I didn't do events, but I did a half AS in law, and then thought, should I go off and go to uni and study law? And actually never did, because I just saw how long it was going to take me to graduate. And then I thought, and the amount of work that had to go, I thought, no, not for me. But actually later on in life, I have worked in some capacity within the kind of legal remit, funny enough, because I think that's your interest. But so you went on, you took a dual degree at the Metropolitan University in marketing and
in public relations and events management. Which, the PR was actually where I was coming with the legal side of things. Because wanting to be a lawyer is obvious, you're defending people, you're projecting their best selves. PR is kind of the same. You're advocating for brands and individuals, building a positive image and damage control and everything that comes with it. So I just went the easy route towards something that is similar, but it doesn't involve this much study. And it's not so rigid, and because my granddad, God bless his soul, he was a criminal lawyer. Back in Bulgaria in communism, and he was an anti-communist who got killed by the regime. So that, I think, stuck with me, that I really wanted, because everybody was telling me how much like him I am. I never met him. He was dead before I got born. But the personality and the fight for justice, kind of thing. I've embodied that big time. Yeah. I guess those stories were always told to you growing up as well of him. Yes. So that would have had some influence. So PR, and then as that kind of went into the course, did you know that's what you wanted to do for a career, or was it just, I'm going to do this because it's similar to something that perhaps I would have gone into and it feels like it can give a bit of my personality? Exactly. I thought it was a practical choice. Yes. I thought it was a practical choice that fits my personality. With PR, there is a lot of glamorousness and all that kind of stuff, which I've always loved. Being Bulgarian, us Eastern Europeans, we love that glam angle for things. So I just thought that it's practical and it fits my personality to go into PR, but also it's a good career path because it's one of the hats of marketing. Yeah. Which marketing I know is the most serious, all-encompassing side of of everything. I did a lot of courses. I took a lot of modules in marketing as well during my studies and after, because that's something that you never stop learning, especially now with social media, and it's changed completely from like what it was 12 years ago. But yes, it was just exciting, and I love that kind of, the celebrities, all that sort of stuff, which, growing up, I never thought that I would ever experience or see. And then look at me today, what can I say?
But okay, so that was like the beginning part of your journey. Did you find it hard integrating into the UK, or when you came here, did you find that everything felt very different and it was really, I mean, you were 19 on your own?
Funnily enough, and a lot of foreign people say that with London is you either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
I felt very much at home immediately.
Yeah.
That really helped me because, yes, it was difficult, but I knew that, it helped me that I was so young, because it helped me bend myself and integrate better because, the world was my oyster. I had to find who I am. I didn't know who I am at that point properly. So I just really started looking at how the English people live, embodying the traditions. And I love that old schoolness, that's the old architecture, that sense, the monarchy, the heritage is something that I have always admired and loved. And I just felt very much at home. I don't know, maybe in a past life. I lived here, you never know. But it felt so at home, and I just went straight in.
Okay, so skip forward a few then, because of course then at some point in the future you met Pierre.
A very long point in the future. Yeah.
When did you meet? How old were you?
So I met Pierre for the first time probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
It would have been, exactly 10 years ago when he first got his puppy. Because that's how we met, because we lived in the same building in London. So I had my Mr. Mooch, and he comes with this little tiny guinea pig-like dog, which everyone was like, oh, what's this dog? And we just started chatting, friendly. We'll bump each other occasionally, but nothing more than that. We were just neighbors who would see each other every now and again. Pierre was traveling a lot as well, because he did a lot of movies. He then went and spent some time in America, so he didn't live there that whole time. He'll come and go, and he had girlfriends, I had boyfriends, so it was sort of like we'd bump into each other, have a chat like neighbors, and then that's it kind of thing. And then in 2021 is when things actually really happened.
Okay, so tell me about that. So in 2021, so you were living in the same building for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, so was that 9 years or so into living in the building?
Yeah, about that, because we moved there, Vicky and I moved there in 2013.
Okay.
Pierre had his flat since the building was built, basically, because that was his grown-up bachelor pad. Yes, and it was funny because the first time when Vicky and I moved there, we moved onto the second floor, and our balcony was under his balcony, but like on a diagonal, so he'd throw cigarette butts. And I hated him. I was like, who is doing this? Who is throwing this? We still fight about this.
Really?
Still this day, by the way.
That's so funny.
I go and I catch him smoking somewhere. I'm like, I can smell cigarettes. And we both laugh, but yeah, the cigarette is a big part of it. I used to smoke as well, so, but that takes me to the divine angle of everything and the timings, which, we touched upon.
Yeah, the divine timing, because then, of course, you did then meet, as you say, in 2021 properly and start spending some time together.
Yeah.
And it is bizarre, because when we've spoken, you have expressed how, in terms of where you both were in your life, you were just happened to be at that right point as well. Of course, right location, because you're both, crossing each other's paths, but at the right point in your life. And you've called that divine timing.
I very much believe in that.
Yeah.
We, Pierre and I are both very spiritual. It's our faith that has seen us through a lot in life, individually and now together as a couple. But that's... I believe in that because many times when I had faced a lot of problems in my past and with health and all kinds of, not great experiences, I would sit and I always think, why did this happen to me? And it must be a reason. I'm a good person. Why am I having such trials and tribulations and, experiencing hardships? And then suddenly when we re-met as such, downstairs, literally on the entrance of the building one day, he was going on about something, and then I just looked at him and I was like, oh my God, he's literally going through exactly what I went through 4 years ago, and it's hard, and he's all alone, and I managed to go through it, and I had a lot of support. But at that point, I didn't know anything. I didn't know he had a family around, or, we never were that close before. So then, we started chatting more. And he invited me over for a coffee, and then I didn't go for a long time, and then I did think that he was gay. Because,
oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I felt safe. Because I had my fair share of bad relationships in the past, and I was going through, breakups and all that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it go and wait and see when it's going to happen. I know that there is a person out there for me who will love me, who I can have a family with, because that's something that this has been my biggest dream since I was little. We spoke about the star signs. I'm a Cancer. Family is everything. My home is my fortress, and I really, really wanted that for myself, and I knew deep down inside me that it will happen. My mom had after every breakup or every heartache and everything, she would tell me, there is that person, he's there somewhere, and you will meet at the right time. And that just always stuck with me. Funnily enough, Pauline, Pierre's mom, used those exact same words.
Oh, really?
Within the years, when he would, because he's a very emotional person, he's very sensitive, and, when he would have a breakup and have his heart broken, he would go to his mom and say the same. They're very close. And she would tell him, there is this person, just be patient, it will come, you'll know.
Yes.
And then there you have it. But we didn't start off romantically at all. No.
Friends.
Just friends.
From both sides. From both sides, as in the intention. Of course, you say you thought
his
he wasn't
intention
straight.
was different. His intention was different, but that I learned later on because he was clever.
Yeah.
He was being very clever.
But I love the fact that because he was a gentle person, a kind person, and something you hadn't yet experienced in a relationship beforehand, you thought he can't be straight. He can't be.
He was very emotional, and it was the little dog. I've got to say. And it was the Italian mannerisms, because Italian men, they're very and all that flamboyant, exactly. And then you see this guy with this tiny little Pomeranian in a how do you call these?
Yes, like a puppy,
like
sling.
A sling, exactly. And how are you not going to think this person is gay?
Okay,
you know what I mean.
So anyway, that was your gaydar or whatever was off.
But it was off, but that helped him because I let him close to me.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I'm not under threat.
Yes, yeah.
So I opened up.
Friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really, we at one point we sat down. I did go to his after he invited me a million times to go for coffees and stuff, and I did go. And I remember that we sat down on his balcony and we chatted for hours and hours, and you chat about things that are not necessarily things you're going to chat about on a first date or to a person that you potentially see as a love interest. But that's what did it for us, because we were very open with each other. We just shared, and that's how we really clicked.
Yes.
And that's when I started seeing things a bit more, that perhaps this could be really it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that then led on. I mean, if you met in 2021, you got married in 2022.
Yeah.
That is bloody quick.
Listen,
quick.
The funny thing...
you know, I guess.
Well, yes, but he proposed to me. He literally was going to propose to me almost straight away, but I said I stopped it. I quashed it because in the summer we went to Italy, and because we were chatting and we were friends, and at that point, mind you, and I do want to say that because he laughs about it, we haven't had any physical contact yet.
Yeah.
And he was like, literally, I want to marry you. I remember this. We were in the pool and we were chatting, and then he just looks at me and he's like, I just want to marry you. And I'm like, no, is this a proposal? You don't do it like this. Not a chance, you know. We've been like seeing each other for like 2 months. It's not happening. And, you know, and then we just laughed it off and left it. But he really meant it. He told me after he really meant it. So he actually proposed to me in December of that same year. So we started dating around April, May. Yeah. And in December he proposed.
That's crazy. I mean, that is very, very quick. But like I said, I think there is definitely something, and you do hear of it all the time, when people meet someone and they connect and it is that person for them, that all then happens very quickly and naturally. Like it's, you know, people, you don't even question it's too fast, really.
No, it felt like home. And also when you're at our age, because, you know, I'm 37 now, he's 45. So we sort of like lived enough to know that what we like in another person, what we want, what we don't want. I mean, neither of us is ideal. There's no such thing as perfect person. We both went through a lot to adjust to each other. We had lots of, you know, situations and troubles that we had to overcome as a couple, but we did, and that only just made us stronger.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think age plays a lot into it, and I think, of course, that's life experience, knowing yourself as well. How was it, though, kind of when you found out that he was part of this Toni and Guy legacy? I mean, you didn't know anything about him.
I didn't, and it was really funny.
And then integrating into the family as well. Was that tricky?
Actually, no. And this was another reason why I believe that this is so meant to be, because we just fitted like a glove. All of us. His mum and I are like best friends. You know, of course, we would have our disagreements, like every mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, about silly things sometimes, which is, you know, perfectly normal. But we are like best friends. And Pierre always tells me, you're just like the perfect mix between my mum and dad.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And he is, you know, a very good mix between my mum and dad, too. And it's funny how much he is like my dad as well, which I'm like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? But it changes. With time. I didn't know that he was going to introduce me to his mum. I didn't know about the Toni and Guy side of anything, you know, because when we were dating now for probably about 2-3 months at that point, and he just came and he said, why don't we, you know, go to the country? You know, you need a bit of rest to my mom's house, but we're going with a few friends, so I don't feel like anything like, you know, formal or stuff like that. And he would have told me at that point that he's an actor and that, you know, that's it.
That's all you knew?
That's all I knew.
Wait, he did not tell you that his dad was Toni of Toni and Guy, and that...
No, but I do understand it in a way, because you would imagine that a lot of girls would literally be like, oh... Yeah, okay, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I do understand his perspective on it. And actually, I quite like it as well, because... from your side, you're able to get to know him without that pressure from you may have felt from the fact that he was this person and not, you know, of course, not just an actor. An actor's a very, you know, very creative, fulfilling and career, and amazing for him to have become an actor. But the fact that also he has this legacy behind him would have felt like a lot of pressure for any girlfriend, I'm sure.
For sure. It's, you know, it's big shoes to fill in, you know, being part of the family. And this really, not knowing, did help.
Yes.
Because when we went there, and I remember, because he wasn't driving at the time, so a friend came to pick us up to drive us to the, you know, to Pauline's house in the country. And it was very much like nothing, you know, we're just going, you know, because you know, all of us, you know, you have a friend who has the house in the country. That's where you spend the weekends. You know, I've done it a million times and I didn't see anything special about it, really. I thought, you know, we're just going with a few friends. There'll be other people. We're going to spend the weekend in Surrey. His idea was that he was introducing me to his mum. Because he was planning all this without my knowledge, you know, and it was funny because then, you know, my best friend Vicky, she was looking, she's like, what's happening with this guy? Like, what is this all about? I'm like, no, we're just friends and this and that. Leah, do you realize that you're the only one that doesn't know you're dating?
Oh, really?
And I seriously, it was so weird because I just felt so close to him that I didn't put any label to anything.
Yeah. So you got there, and so did he tell you beforehand? before you arrived, or only went whilst you
He
were
didn't
there?
tell me nothing. We
Okay.
get in the car with my dogs, with Raffaele, and we drive to Surrey, and then we enter, Pauline's house, and then I'm starting to be like,
Where am I?
and I just turned to him like, well, Pierre, that's the country house, know. But and then we go in, and his mom meets us and everything, and she's the loveliest, most down to earth person. And this is really like, we started chatting straight away, laughing. We're so alike because obviously Tony was Italian, Pauline is half English, half Irish, but she grew up with Tony, basically. They've been together since she was 14. So she's more Italian than any Italian
Yeah.
And Bulgarian, we're very loud and all that. So we really, really clicked.
Yeah.
And we just sat down and again chatted. And, Pierre and I, separate rooms. He was trying to knock on my door in the night. I was like, no, piss off.
But I'm sure as well, the fact that you've mentioned that you grew up with such strong family values as well. And then those two together, the fact that when I've read about Toni and Guy and the history of Toni and Guy and how he grew up, Tony and his brother, and then their marriage, so Tony's marriage with Pauline, they very much embodied family values. So it's probably...
That's what made me feel so at home.
Yeah.
Really, because I would hear Pauline speak and I would just be like, this is exactly me, this is how I want to be.
Yeah.
And it went both ways because, it's the family traditions, it's the getting together around the table, eating together. We go every Sunday without fail. We have Sunday lunch with Pauline. We go to church together in the morning. And this is something that I really want Pierre and I to always keep, and then, with God's help, when we have children, pass on to them, because this has been lost in the 21st century a lot.
Yeah, it has. Okay. So very much, life is kind of wonderful from the personal side. And being part then of the Toni and Guy legacy led you to then being part of the Toni and Guy Charitable Foundation, which you're now a director of as well. Amazing. So you're a director of the Toni and Guy Foundation, Charitable Foundation. You are co-founder of Bonkers Creative and also a co-founder of Mum, Dad and Me. So like 3 busy things going on, along with probably loads of other stuff that you haven't mentioned.
Yes, well, projects here and there and everywhere always.
And everything. A wife, and everything else. How do you keep the balance of all of that? How does it keep
Can
going?
I be honest?
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't?
No. I've had burnouts. I've had mental health struggles in terms of, severe anxiety, insomnia, problem sleeping. And that's what really led me to try and balance.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot, and it was a lot of change as well, moving from London, being 33 years old, your whole life is kind of like set, you're in your own routines, and, then getting married so quickly, like you said, because it is quickly, it's a massive change, you're moving from London to Surrey. It's, you're moving a business as well, because with the photography especially, we had our studio in London, and it was doing very well, and then, you're moving your whole target to a completely different neighborhood and county and all that. So that took a bit of time, but that's exciting because we're now revamping it and doing more with it now that we're more aware of what's going on and how things are in Surrey.
Yes.
But yes, it's taken a toll on me.
Yeah.
If I can say, but now I'm better. I'm very much focused on balance, yeah. Well, I was going to say, so marriage, a very big thing to organise. As you say, relocating 2 businesses, become the director of the charitable side of Toni and Guy Foundation. I mean, that's a lot. And I know you organised the summer soiree last summer as well. Well, you were there.
I was there, and it was an amazing event.
That gave me a nice little burnout afterwards.
I was going to say, I think I go 101 miles an hour. Okay, we were talking about this a moment ago before we started recording, that actually it's kind of what drives us. So we are it's that probably a bit of dopamine stuff, but we are driven by that intensity of getting things done and being busy. But at the same time, you know, we know that we need to take that time to balance.
A bit of solitude.
And it's that drive to succeed. Is that what drives you?
You know what? I don't know, because success is a very multidimensional term.
Yes,
as
it is.
such. You know, my idea of success has changed a lot. Yes, it was before. And success for me before was, you know, successful at my job, good lifestyle, giving back, you know, helping people achieve their goals, because in the marketing side of things, that's what we've always been doing. We were helping startups and small businesses. So you're with someone in the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey, which is very exciting. It's also very draining. It's small budgets or no budgets, and you have to really be creative and know what and how to stretch to make it happen for people. The photography has been an interesting side business, more like it. It naturally grew. But with the foundation, it's something that right now is very, very close to my heart. Because it's something that we've both been entrusted by Pauline, and the charity angle of the TONI&GUY empire as such is what we care the most from a personal perspective, and we wanted to carry on that legacy. So this is Pierre and my contribution towards the family's legacy, and a nod back to his dad, because you know, the main business is operated more, you know, by his sister, you know, and everybody has their role within the family, and we're very, very proud that we can head the charity.
I mean, that must be a really nice, like you say, you did have a burnout after last summer's event, and but I think it must be such a nice, rewarding thing to do, be able to give back, as you say, and that nod back to Tony as well, to say we're still doing it for you, and representing the TONI&GUY Foundation. It's amazing. Leaving back to business, then, you did actually lead on to what I was going to ask next, which is there'll be people listening that have got businesses, of course, startups or established businesses. And I think one of the key things that a lot of people do struggle with actually is marketing and knowing how to get it right. Where do they start? You know, if you're a startup, that is a minefield.
Very confusing.
It's so confusing. And I know it's so multifaceted. There are so many different layers in terms of marketing. And then you've got the PR side of things. What would you say is a good place in terms to start? Is it SEO? Is it social media? Is it so many different things?
I'd say that it's strategy.
Because
for every business, it will be a completely different side of the marketing spectrum that would be most helpful for. So speaking to someone who can guide you and understand the business and its needs, because a lot of people go and think, oh, social media is so important, and I'm just going to go and pay a social media manager to plonk in some content and do a few posts. No. Really no. Or paid ads on Instagram and stuff. These things, they just get lost. In some businesses, they're very helpful. In other, not so much. So when it comes to the social media platforms, you've got to be clever which ones are the ones that really work for you. It's a lot of trial and error. And it's strategy and it's authenticity. You have got to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself. You don't go on the rat race. Everybody else is doing it. I want the likes, I want the followers, I want the numbers. No, because it's the quality over quantity that is what you need.
It is. It's so true. And I think everyone's personal growth in their business is very, very different, and their journey. And linking it back to being authentic is kind of key. It's very key, actually. And people buy into people. So I guess people do struggle to be able to how do they represent themselves in that way? How can they show themselves to be their true authentic self? And there are lots of ways of doing that. I've personally found actually meeting people and building personal relationships to be a great point of being able to build our business. And that for me is a different form of marketing, because I'm almost marketing myself.
It's very much marketing. This is what we're saying. Marketing is so diverse. everything is marketing. This is marketing right now,
course,
everything is marketing.
Yeah.
So you just have to know what suits your business the best. And like you said, in your field of work, networking, personal connections, events right now, community events are a big side of marketing, hosting them or being part of them, sponsoring them even. But it's all to do with budget as well. It's all to do with where your budget will be best spent. When it comes to digital side of marketing, key is to have a good shop window as such. A good website is always a good idea. This will never go out of fashion. It has to be dynamic. It has to run well. You do need SEO. You don't need to go. SEO could cost you tens of thousands of pounds a month, but it could also cost you very little. It depends, again, how do you stretch the budget and where it's most needed. Google Ads, they're great, but not for every business.
Yeah, and you need to know what you're doing as well, I think, with Google Ads, because it can cost you a fortune. And
I was just going to say, a lot of people think that they're going to go and set up a Google ad by themselves and it's going to work. They're throwing their money in the bin. A properly set up Google ad can use less budget and give more results because it's a constant adjustment. I know how it's done because I see we have people that, work with us that do those campaigns. You see that you're changing the ad, you're changing some words, you're changing locations, you're changing so many things dynamically all the time for this to really work. And it does work.
Yeah,
especially when it's for, specific seasons or, when it's around Christmas, they really work because then you do your keywords, you do your location. It's a minefield. That's why it's so important for you to know what you want to achieve with your marketing. Do you want to build more on the image side of things or do you want more actual clients? Word of mouth still remains one of the best forms of marketing for small business.
I also think taking what you just said about Google Ads actually and applying that to yourself when you're out networking face to face is a good one as well. Actually, if you think about people that say, well, I network but I only want to meet people in my circle, in my sector, who are doing, maybe you've got a particular business in a particular sector. I'm only going to meet people there and I'm only going to meet them in this location. But have you thought about maybe geographically changing your location to people that you're going to meet? Because expanding your geographical reach doesn't mean that just because your business is here, doesn't mean your business can't help people or meet people that are in a different location who might have connections to your area.
Which your business is actually very much about. Your specific business, if we use you as a case study, that's one of the key things that you should be doing, which you are doing.
It took me a while to think that one through and get that right. But it's funny because then a lot of people that I do speak to, we're talking about marketing, actually haven't quite clocked onto that yet. I'm always saying to them, remember personal branding. It's always about who you are,
your
connecting.
authentic
self. Exactly.
And sharing yourself with the audience. Being it digitally like this or in person through events and communities and, anything really. But the personal angle is very important. Nowadays, a lot of people, when it comes to how do I present myself, my personal branding, this and that, they look too much into it. They very rigidly try to structure it to be this perfect persona. It doesn't work. People can see that. When you look at someone's social media, and I know a lot of colleagues advise on all these tactics, because there are marketing tactics that people use to, get a certain look and go. But in the long run, it's very, very transparent for anyone who actually really understands to see that it's all, excuse my French, but bullshit. It's not all these vanity things, but people do it because they feel the pressure that other people are doing it. And then it creates this competition, and then you're like, well, I want to be my authentic self, but if I don't dress like this, or I don't say this, or I don't pretend to look like this, then I'm losing my competitive advantage because people are going to think that I'm not quite there yet. The fake it till you make it, in my humble opinion, that's the worst thing you can do.
It's interesting because I think there's two sides that fit the fake it till you make it. Because I think you can, in a sense, fake it till you make it if you're thinking about imposter syndrome. Like
that's different.
Like you're trying to like build your confidence up, so you're kind of almost play acting and pretending to be this kind of confident person. But then the other side of it is, as you say, they're looking over your shoulder side of things and looking what everyone else is doing can distract you from being your authentic self. Absolutely. I think so.
Well, even, saying about this, I personally have experienced this today with the imposter syndrome situation, because everybody tells me, and I do look very confident.
Yeah.
I was really, really nervous about this today.
Yeah. It's funny how many people get so nervous about speaking on a podcast.
Exactly.
It's crazy. I mean, of course, everyone does. And that's the thing. That's the nice thing to always remember, is that you're not alone. Everyone is the same. But then that kind of loops back around to mindset, actually, because our mindset has a big effect, actually, on how we behave personally and in business as well. I know that you've got a very positive mindset. We've spoken about it, and you have got certain methods, I guess, as well, that you've put in place that help you on a day-to-day with your mindset.
Yes, because we're all very different, and what works for one will not necessarily work for another.
Yeah.
But it's been an ongoing journey of mine. I'd say probably for about 8 years after I had a very big health crisis is when I really discovered the power of mindfulness, of, different holistic and spiritual practices, learning and understanding more about emotional intelligence. These things are so important to just keep going in life. And it's a very personal thing, but there is a lot of toxic positivity going around. Life is not always a bed of roses.
No.
I am very positive, and I always try to be positive, but sometimes I become really overwhelmed, and this is when the consistency of being positive before that time comes helps me deal with it when I'm down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've adopted a lot of practices. I do work with a therapist.
Yes.
I have done for years now, and it's become like one of my self-care practices to keep myself grounded and to have someone who would literally, when I start going, will pull me back like, stop and revise.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Anyone who could afford to do this, I would say. A lot of people look at therapists and like, oh, something must be wrong with you to have a therapist. No. It's a total opposite.
Yeah.
A therapist is someone who just holds space for you in a world where the world doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But the therapist manages to hold that space for the world to stop for you, to vent, to share, to actually, they just act like a mirror. So they don't advise you. You come to your own conclusions with a good therapist, which helps your personal development journey as well, big time.
Well, you get to stop and pause, as you say, in a really, really busy, chaotic world where you don't always have time to process your thoughts and your feelings. You just kind of move on. If it's something that's happened that day and it's a bad thing, it's like, okay, get up, go, just carry on, whatever, got to get on with the day. So I guess that's, such a positive method put into place if you can. And I know there are loads of apps as well out there.
There are loads of apps. There are journals as well, because not necessarily you have to speak to someone. You can write it down. I don't do that, guilty, but I know the power of journaling. This is one practice that I really want to adopt. And I don't know why I still haven't done it.
It's time.
Probably.
Yeah.
But every morning, and now I've made this like a routine for myself, and I don't skip this. I listen to at least 10 minutes of guided meditation.
Yeah.
Just to set my mind straight for the day in that, positive, looking forward to the day attitude rather than, oh my God, what do I have to do kind of thing. And it's 10 minutes and everybody can do it. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
And I can say that because I've been skipping on it for a long time, but now I've really made myself do it. And there's also the thing that in the morning when you just literally wake up, your brain is still in an alpha wave.
Yes.
So you're way more receptive, even if you don't meditate and listen, but it literally, if you listen to a guided meditation, the words, they come straight into your subconscious. So it's a very, very good time of the day to do that. Of course, it's amazing to do it before you go to bed as well.
Of course.
I used to do that before. I don't do it anymore because I watch something mindless to switch off the brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's one of my coping things with the busy lifestyle and to keep myself in balance and grounded, because we touched upon the burnout. It's a subject that everybody...
Yeah.
A lot of people are experiencing, and they don't even realize when it starts coming to it. They keep pushing and then it's too late. And it's already happened, and it takes a bloody long time to
pull back, yeah.
recharge and recoup after this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that mindfulness is such a big topic, I guess, at the moment. It's something that it's quite amazing, really, that we're all able to talk about it in a very different way than perhaps if someone said mindfulness maybe 10 years ago, we would know kind of what it is, but we wouldn't have had so much subject matter on it, really. And actually, I think I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about, as you said, the morning meditation, and actually things like not reaching for your phone. And not in that first half an hour that you spoke.
Hard.
It's such a hard habit that we've allowed ourselves. Well, society, life, work, first thing in the morning, I want to look in my phone and look at my emails and see if something come in. But just allowing yourself to have that half an hour, as you say, when your mind is the most receptive, to perhaps do some meditation.
And another thing on that subject, coming here more from the neuroscience perspective of things. If you look at your phone first thing when you open your eyes, that blue light straight away comes through your eyes, hits the brain. Then you're starting to read the emails. You're not giving that brain the time to wake up, and you're just literally hitting it straight away.
Yeah.
And that sets you up for anxiety.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and if people can do that, I don't do it. I want to start doing it more, but I've been speaking to a lot of people about that, the mitochondrial health, and how important it is to go outside first thing in the morning, and even if it's cloudy, just sit there for 10-20 minutes.
Yeah.
So then your eyes actually absorb the natural sunlight. It just sets your whole body in a different way for the day ahead. And it fights inflammation.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. That's good. I think it's just really nice for people that are listening always to hear other people's ways of, how, whether it's about the business side or it's about things like mindfulness, because all of these come into play when we go about our day to day, and we are running a business or being a very present wife or a friend, etc. You also have spoken before about your spirituality side and your connection, yours and Pierre's connection with spirituality. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'm really intrigued.
Absolutely. So we very much believe in God.
Yeah.
It's a massive presence in our life. Like I said, we do go to church, but I'm not going to mix religion, because religion and God and spirituality are very different things, but that connection of knowing that there is this higher power that can take you through everything in life, and if you let yourself go and trust that everything will be okay, any problem that you get faced with becomes easier to deal with. And our faith has seen us through a lot of hurdles during life, when you just sit there and you think, oh my God, that's like the end of everything. And if you don't have this faith, but that real faith that it's going to be okay, and you just have to push through a little bit more, it's amazing. It's something that, I pray again all the time. Literally, I would say little prayers in my head as I walk in the street if I need to. If I feel like a negative influence towards me, because we all do, we communicate with people on daily basis, and we exchange energy. It's that energy exchange that some people, like me, for example, I'm very spiritually open, so I absorb because I'm also an empath. I really connect with people, and I feel their feelings, if that makes sense, when I connect with them. And sometimes that really puts a stamp on me, and I get very drained. Which then, again, with spirituality, you think, okay, let's now cleanse, not absorb, dissolve, have a bath, say a little prayer, because people don't necessarily wish you ill.
No.
But there are people that get a little bit jealous of this, that, and the other, and these things, they're energies, and if you believe in energy and all that, that they do affect you. So you have to have that mental and spiritual hygiene, I call it.
Oh, really? Mental and spiritual hygiene. Yes, I like it.
So the meditation and,
because it all links into spirituality, doesn't
everything
it?
does.
Mindfulness does. Divine timing does.
Everything does.
Being authentic, being your true authentic self. It all links back to spirituality.
Because you just believe that you have to be that person that is doing good.
Oh, Lilia. Well, look, I think that this chat today has inspired me definitely as well. It's been so nice to have you on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't bad. It was fine. It was really, really easy.
I can do it again.
I would love to close it today by asking you if you have any advice for our listeners that for your personal growth or from your career growth, anything but ordinary advice, what would it be?
I would say that personal and professional life, they're very much the same and they're very interlinked.
Yeah.
And for you to be successful professionally, you first have to be successful as a person. So being your authentic self, adopting all these practices that we've spoken about, or anything that works for you really, working on yourself is what will get you through to where you want to be in life.
Yeah.
Life is a big lesson. We learn all the time.
Yeah.
And by working on yourself, you'll get to anywhere you want. And perseverance.
Perseverance, yeah. No, I love it. Thank you so much, Lilia. It's been such a pleasure.
Pleasure, Zoe. I hope that everybody enjoys our little podcast episode.
Thank you. Thanks so much for tuning in to Anything But Ordinary. I hope the conversation gave you a little inspiration, maybe a new perspective, or just reminded you there's no such thing as a straight path when it comes to success. If you love what you heard, it would mean the world if you could follow, subscribe, or leave a little review. It really helps us keep sharing these incredible stories. And if you want to see more behind the scenes or get in touch, all the info you need is in the show notes. Until next time, keep being curious, keep challenging the ordinary, and remember that most interesting lives rarely follow the rules.